So it's a lot different. When you're growing up, let's say, and you're working hard out there every day and you're participating in your 401k, or you're putting money away in your IRA or your Roth IRA, or you're saving towards retirement, one of those what we call qualified retirement accounts. You're in a different phase of life. You're still working, you're earning, you're putting money in, your company's matching it, you're putting money in good markets, bad markets, all kinds of markets, so your dollar cost averaging in over time. And so it's a great lesson to, in a sense, look back at that and understand and realize that slow, disciplined, long-term savings with a long-term plan gets you to this point in time where, okay, you're looking at, I've got a decent sized 401k or IRA, a retirement account. I've got a nice nest egg. I've worked my whole life to save this. And here we are. So going into retirement, we call that retirement red zone. We've talked about it probably a million times over the last 10 years on this show, but it never gets old, because I think people need to constantly be reminded, just like anything, in life, we tend to have amnesia and we live in the moment. But you have to go into this phase. I call it the retirement red zone. If you're 5 years out, or you're already in retiring, if you're somebody that's listening today and you're like, oh, shoot, that's me, I'm actually retiring like tomorrow, you've got to completely look at things differently, 100% differently, because now you're going into a completely different phase where now you've got to, you're coming out of what we call that accumulation phase, and now you're going into the potentially distribution or preservation stage. And that stage of life with your assets and your retirement assets is got to be looked at completely different, unlike anything you've ever done before, way more detailed, way more important to plan now, because now it's critical, because you could, in a sense, make mistakes while you were young and putting money away and growing up. But now at this point in that retirement red zone, you can't afford to make any mistakes. And so you've got to kind of flip your brain and understand that it might have been okay, and it might have been pretty easy to manage and navigate yourself up to this point. But going forward into retirement, it's just, I can't stress this enough. It's extremely complicated. And there's so many different things that you got to look at and be aware of. And there's a lot of different pitfalls. We talk about it in our educational seminars that we run monthly as well. And I pull it up on the slide. It's the first thing I get into, is like, hey folks, these are the 3 major risks that we need to be talking about now that you may not have ever thought about up until this point. But now that you're in that retirement red zone, one, we have to talk about income, how we're going to generate income and not run out of income. Like, what's the number one thing that folks are worried about in the AARP polls into retirement? It's running out of money in retirement. And by the way, a poll just came out, or a study just came out, which is very concerning. About 65% of America will not be able to retire, and they will run out of money. So it's very scary, because these folks have not done the proper planning, and also a lot of risk that we talk about. If you've ignored that planning for income, you've ignored de-risking your portfolio. If you have too much risk in it, we've got to talk about that in depth today. And then also taxes, the silent killer, or fees or expenses. I've talked about it before. Sometimes we do an analysis on folks and they bring in like a variable annuity or something that's got 5% expenses in it. So de-risking, protecting your income, lowering your taxes, lowering your fees, and going into retirement, what we call the distribution phase, completely different. So we've got to build a plan, a comprehensive retirement plan. This is why we're here. The Take Point On Retirement Freedom Plan is a plan that I've put together over 30 years. It's tried and true. It's tested. We have hundreds of happy clients in it currently. And, the phone doesn't ring, even during times of volatility, because We've done all that planning. We've got everything in place. They're not worried about running out of income. They're not worried about being charged too much in fees. They're not really worried about paying too much in taxes. And so, it's just, you owe it to yourself. Jim pitches it to you every day here on the show. When we talk on the show, you owe it to yourself to pick up that phone, get on our website, set up a consultation. It's completely complimentary. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything but your time. And that's it.
Yeah. Takepointwealth.com. I do want to talk about sequence of returns risk.
Mm-hmm.
Why timing matters when it comes to sequence of return risk more than people actually realize.
Yeah. So this is a big one that we show people in our presentations as well. And I would love to be able to show it visually. I know most of us out there are visual, so you're trying to listen to a radio show right now. You're trying to picture this, but you can take two people, identical people, and retire them with the same amount of money, and they both have to take the same amount of distribution. And one could easily run out of money in retirement, and one might do just fine and make it. And it really depends on those first 5 years. What type of returns are you getting? So if one person gets, some serious double-digit negative returns in the first 5 years of retirement, significantly it affects their retirement and their ability to maintain their portfolio and not run out of money. If you catch 5 years of a really good, strong market, you're going to be set up completely differently. But this is what's important to understand, is that you can't rely on the markets to get you to success. You've got to rely on perfect planning. And so, think about it for a moment. If I could share the math with you, if your portfolio gets hit by the market 10, 15%, but you're also taking out 5% or so, or some people take out 10%, or maybe you decided that you want to take a big distribution and for whatever reason, new house, new RV, the boat, a big trip. So you take a distribution, and at the same time, the market takes a hit. And if you've been watching the market currently, you've seen this year, volatility is our theme. I mean, we're all over the place, up and down, all around. And so mathematically, if a portfolio comes down 20%, you've got to make like 40% to get back to even, right? So it's very difficult to do. So, you take out 20, if the portfolio goes down 20 and you've taken out 5, now you're down 25%. Like, how do you make that money back? So we've got to carve out and protect your income and your distributions and treat it almost like a completely separate portfolio from what we call your market or your risk portfolio. So when we build a plan, we're looking at smart risk portion, and then we're looking at smart safe portion. So two buckets, in a sense, that are comprised of two totally different strategies to meet your long-term needs and goals and get you to and through retirement. So sequence of returns, what that simply means is, one person, if he gets some big negatives in the beginning of retirement, he could potentially be wiped out or significantly reduce his assets, versus somebody that catches the upside. People that had retired 4 or 5 years ago, they're looking pretty good right now. But right now, if you're getting ready to retire, and we've already been through a 4-year bull market, and now we're teetering at the top, and we know what happens once we hit new highs, for these period of times, more than likely we're headed for some type of correction.